whispered on her lips like a secret. The days had stretched longer without him, the forest quieter, the evenings colder. Even Abir seemed to notice, asking, "Where, Izek?" every time a truck passed down the dirt road. On the 6th morning, just as the first frost began to melt off the porch railings, a knock came at her door. When Mira opened it, she found Leo standing there, a grin on his young face, his curls messy from the wind and his arms full. "Morning, Miss Mira," he said, stepping in like the sunlight itself. "Izek fixed your heater, told me to make sure it works before I leave. Also, Nova said to give you this." He held out a small cloth bag tied with twine. "For the nightmares." Mira took it gently, the faint scent of lavender and wild mint escaping the bag. "She's sweet," she said softly. "Thank you, Leo." He shrugged, cheeks reddening. "She said it's nothing. She's at the nursery early today, someone called in sick. She hates leaving her plants alone." Mira smiled faintly, watching him as he crouched by the heater. His movements were clumsy but careful, like a boy trying hard to do something right. "You don't have to rush," she said. "Breakfast's almost ready. Pancakes." Leo's face lit up instantly. "Seriously, pancakes." "Blueberry ones," she teased, "with maple syrup." "Oh, I'm so staying." They ate at the little wooden table by the window, the morning sunlight spilling across the plates. Abir sat beside Leo, laughing between bites, and for a moment, it felt like family, like the kind Mira had forgotten she could still have. But as they finished eating, curiosity tugged at her again. "Leo," she began carefully, "do you know where Izek's been these last few days?" Leo hesitated, glancing up mid-bite. Probably out with the pack. It was the full moon last night." "The full moon," Mira frowned. "What does that have to do with it?" He looked around nervously, lowering his voice. "You know, it's different for us then. We have to transform, can't stop it. But a few days before the full moon, it starts to slip. Some of us lose control for a bit." Her chest tightened. "And Izek?" Leo's expression softened, guilt flickering behind his boyish eyes. "It's worse for him. He doesn't want to hurt anyone, so he stays away. Especially from..." He stopped himself. "From who?" Mira asked gently. He hesitated. His hands fidgeted with the hem of his sleeve. "You have to promise not to tell him I said this." "Leo," she said softly, leaning forward. "I promise." He swallowed. When he was younger, before his father died, he changed early, too early. He couldn't control it. His mother tried to calm him, but his voice cracked. He hurt her. She survived that time. But a few years later, on another full moon, his little sister Eli was with him. He didn't mean to, Mira. He loved her more than anything. But something went wrong. She was too close when he changed. Mira's throat felt dry. The room seemed smaller suddenly, the fire's warmth suffocating instead of soothing. "He never told me," she whispered. Leo looked stricken. "He doesn't tell anyone. Not even the pack talks about it. He blames himself for everything, his sister, his father, his mother's death. He thinks loving someone only ends in blood." Mira stared at her plate, heart twisting painfully. "That's why he keeps pulling away." "Leo," she said after a long pause, voice barely a whisper. "Is that why being with someone human is dangerous?" He blinked, caught off guard. "You really don't know." "Know what?" He looked down, guilt coloring his face. "The vampires." Mira frowned. "The what?" "The vampires," Leo repeated, as though it were the most ordinary thing in the world. She stared at him for a long moment before letting out a nervous laugh. "You're joking." "I'm not." "Leo," she searched his face for even the smallest hint of a smile. "Werewolves were already impossible enough for me to accept. Now you're telling me vampires are real too." She shook her head in disbelief. "This is starting to sound like one of those fantasy novels I read." "I wish I was joking," he said quietly. The smile slowly disappeared from her face. "So they're actually real?" He nodded. "They've existed as long as we have." Mira leaned back in her chair, trying to process everything. "I spent 26 years believing monsters only existed in stories. Then I met a werewolf." She gave a disbelieving laugh. And now you're telling me vampires have been walking around too. They don't exactly advertise it, Leo replied. 1,000 questions raced through her mind. So, she said cautiously, are they like you? Do they have packs, families, or are they dangerous? Leo finished. She nodded. His expression darkened. Most of them are more dangerous than werewolves. Leo didn't even hesitate. Much more. A chill ran through Mira, despite the warmth of the cottage. They're stronger than humans, faster than most wolves, and far more patient. They don't just attack, they plan, they wait. If they want information, they'll follow someone for weeks. If they want to hurt a werewolf, they don't always come after the wolf. His voice grew quieter. They go after the people the wolf loves. Mira felt her stomach tighten. They use humans to find us, threaten them, sometimes kill them just to make us suffer. That's how Izek's parents died. His father fell in love with a human, his mother, and the vampires found them. It's happened before, and it'll happen again. The words struck her like ice water. She looked at the young wolf sitting across from her, suddenly realizing he wasn't telling a ghost story. He was remembering one. I didn't know, she whispered. Realization dawned on Leo's face. Oh no, he murmured, pushing his chair back. I shouldn't have told you all this. Izek's going to kill me. Leah. I'm sorry, Mira, he blurted, hurrying toward the door. Please, don't tell him I said anything. Before she could speak, he was gone, the door left half open, his boots thudding down the path. Mira stood there, the soft sound of Abir humming to himself at the table breaking the heavy silence. She moved to the window, watching Leo vanish into the tree line, and felt something inside her shift, a slow ache, a dawning understanding. The forest beyond her house looked different now. Darker, more alive. And somewhere in that endless stretch of green, Izek was fighting demons, not just the kind that bled, but the ones that lived under his skin. She pressed her palm to the cool glass, whispering, Why didn't you tell me, Izek? But only the wind answered back. She went through the motions, dressed Abir, packed his lunch, dropped him at the school down the road, but her thoughts were elsewhere. They hadn't stopped circling since Leo's visit. All through the drive to work, the engine's hum faded beneath the echo of his words. He loved her more than anything, but something went wrong. He thinks loving someone only ends in blood. That's how Izek's parents died. The same story, told in fragments over the months, had always sounded like myth when Izek mentioned it. Vampires were just a rival clan, he'd said once, the Vilnira's opposite. Dangerous, yes, but distant. Nothing to worry about. Now it all felt like a lie. By the time she sat at her desk, the light from her office window was too bright, too sharp. The words on her computer screen swam. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unmoving. Emails blurred. Her coffee went cold. All she could see was Izek's face in her mind. That calm, unreadable gaze. The one that seemed to hold galaxies of things he'd never said. Why hadn't he trusted her with the truth? She could still hear the way his voice had softened when he promised, You won't disappear, not while I'm here. She believed him then. But now, was that promise made out of love? Or out of guilt? Out of fear that letting her go would mean losing control again? Her hand trembled slightly as she took a breath. Maybe she was being unfair. Maybe he was protecting her. But then came another thought, one colder than the rest. If vampires hunted those who loved wolves, then wasn't she already marked? Her pulse quickened. Am I putting Abir in danger just by loving him? Her gaze drifted to the small framed photo on her desk, Abir on his tricycle, laughing. Innocent, whole, safe. She swallowed hard. If Izek had known this could happen, if he'd known what the vampires could do, then why had he let her stay? Her chest ached as if something had splintered inside it. Was he selfish, or just broken? The hours dragged on like ghosts. She tried to type, to think, to pretend that everything was fine, but every shadow that crossed her office window felt like it was watching her. Every face that passed in the corridor looked unfamiliar. By mid-afternoon, she'd given up pretending. She closed her laptop, pressed her forehead against her hands, and breathed through the storm that had built inside her. She loved him. God, she did. Every part of her soul felt tied to his warmth, his gravity, his silence that somehow made her feel heard. But love wasn't supposed to feel like a choice between her heart and her child. And now she wondered if she'd made the wrong one. The house was quiet, but Mira's mind was. Every sound, the ticking clock, the hum of the heater Leo had brought, even the distant wind scraped against her nerves like glass. She had barely rested since morning. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Izek's face, Izek who killed, even though she'd never seen it. Her imagination filled the blanks, and every version of the memory ended with blood. Abir was asleep upstairs, his small breath soft and steady, innocent and unaware of the storm raging inside his mother. And when the knock came, a quiet, almost hesitant knock, her pulse stopped. She didn't need to check. She already knew. She opened the door. And there he was. Rain clung to his hair, his jacket half soaked, eyes shadowed and tired. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Mira," he breathed, voice low, "I needed to see you." Her fingers tightened around the doorknob. "I bet you did," she said with a cold voice, slamming the door shut. He frowned slightly. "What's wrong?" "What's wrong?" she repeated, her voice cracking into a bitter laugh. "You tell me, Izek. You've been hiding things from me since the day we met. Maybe you can start by telling me which ones were lies." He blinked, surprised by the venom in her tone. "Lies? Mira, I never." "Don't," she cut in sharply. "Don't you dare say you never lied. You said it was all under control. You never told me you killed your own sister." His jaw clenched. "That's not something I could just." "You could have," she snapped, her voice rising. "You should have. You think I wanted to find out from someone else that the man I..." Her voice faltered, breaking under the weight of the words she couldn't finish. "That the man I trusted is dangerous to everyone around him." Izek's expression softened, his voice strained. "I would never hurt you, Mira." "That's not the point," she shouted. "You already have. Every single night you came here, every time you smiled like I was safe with you, you were lying. You knew being with you could put me and Abir in danger, and you still stayed." He stepped forward, rain dripping from his clothes onto the wooden floor. "I didn't want to drag you into my world." "Then you shouldn't have," she cried, backing away from him. Her hands trembled. "You shouldn't have looked at me like that, made me believe this was real, made me believe you could love me without breaking me." He flinched, the words hitting harder than any blow. "Mira, please, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she hissed. "The vampires already know about me, don't they?" He froze. Her breath hitched. "They do, don't they? You've been tracking them near the city, and now they know who I am, who Abir is." "Mira, answer me." He looked away. That silence was her answer. Her stomach dropped. The fear finally caught up with her, raw and choking. "You brought them here," she whispered. "You led them to me." His eyes snapped up, filled with pain. "I would never let them touch you." "But you already did," she screamed, her voice echoing through the house. "By being here, by letting them know you care about me, they'll come, Izek. They'll come because of you, because of us." His hand moved toward her, but she stepped back, tears streaming down her face. "Don't," she said. "Don't come near me." He stopped, frozen in place, a wolf leashed by heartbreak. "You think this is love," she continued, her voice trembling but fierce. "Love isn't hiding the truth. Love isn't choosing for me. You kept me in the dark because you didn't trust me enough to know the risk." "Mira, I was trying to protect you." "Then maybe I don't need your protection," she fired back, eyes blazing. "Maybe I just needed honesty." The silence that followed was deafening, the kind that comes right before everything shatters. She wiped her tears roughly, her voice dropping to a low, shaking whisper. "You should go." "Mira." "Go," she repeated, louder this time. "Before I say something I can't take back." He hesitated. His chest rose and fell unevenly. He took a small step forward, searching her eyes for something: forgiveness, hope, anything. But all he found was the cold finality of fear. He opened his mouth, but no words came, so he just nodded once and turned toward the door. The rain outside swallowed him as he stepped into the dark, the wind catching the edges of his coat. He didn't look back. When the door closed, Mira pressed her back against it and slid to the floor, sobs racking her body. The heater hummed softly in the corner, the one he'd fixed, the one that still carried the warmth of his hands. And for the first time since she'd met Izek Stormbane, the silence in her home felt safe. But it also felt unbearably empty. The door slammed behind him, the sound sharp and final, like the closing of a coffin. For a moment, Izek just stood there on her porch, rain soaking through his shirt, staring at the faint glow of light behind the curtains. Her shadow moved once, then disappeared. And with it, the last thing tethering him to control. His hands were shaking, his chest burned. The wolf under his skin snarled and thrashed, clawing to get out. He pressed his palms against the wooden railing, his breath coming fast, fogging in the cold air. "Breathe," he told himself, but his voice cracked. The rain didn't listen, the storm didn't stop, and neither did the ache that tore through his chest like fire. He had wanted to tell her everything he was going to. The night before, he'd sat on his bed, rehearsing it over and over in his head, the truth about his family, his sister, the danger that circled them all. He wanted her to know that he wasn't keeping her in the dark to deceive her, he was trying to protect her. But hearing her voice tonight, trembling, furious, accusing him of endangering her and Abir, it had split him open in ways he didn't know possible. He stumbled off the porch, boots splashing into mud, and walked blindly into the forest. The rain came harder, lightning flashing through the canopy. The further he went, the more the scent of pine and wet earth drowned out her scent, that soft mix of jasmine and warmth he'd grown addicted to. A growl tore from his throat. It wasn't human. He ripped off his soaked shirt, his skin steaming against the cold. His body trembled, not from the weather, from restraint. His wolf was close, closer than it should have been, but he didn't care. He needed to let go. With a guttural sound, his bones shifted, cracking and reshaping. The pain was sharp, blinding, but he welcomed it. Fur rippled across his skin, his vision sharpening, senses exploding into clarity. The forest around him became alive, every heartbeat, every drop of rain echoing in his ears. He howled, a raw, broken sound that split through the storm. It wasn't a call, it was grief. He ran faster than thought through trees, across roots slick with rain. His paws tore through mud, his breath coming in bursts of steam. He didn't stop until he reached the ridge that overlooked Ravenshade, the town lights glowing dimly through the mist. From here, he could see everything: the forest below, the winding road, the faint line of smoke from Mira's chimney. And in that moment, his fury burned itself out, leaving behind only purpose. He hadn't been careless. He hadn't been blind. He knew the dangers that came with her, the way vampires would sense the shift in his scent, the weakness love brought. He'd been preparing for months. He'd sent Cashin to plant false trails near the eastern valley, leading the vampires toward abandoned mines miles away. He'd stationed Fen and Lyra near the borders to track any movement. He and Nova had drawn protective sigils in the forest, old Valnyra markings meant to confuse scent and energy. He had planned everything. And if they came, if the vampires dared set foot near Mira or Abir, his pack would fight until their last breath, every single one of them. Because they were his to protect. Because she was his to protect. The rain began to ease, the moon breaking through the clouds, pale and watchful. He shifted back, naked and shaking under the silver light, his skin steaming. His hands dug into the wet earth as he whispered to the empty forest. I had it under control. I had it all under control. But the words didn't matter anymore. Mira didn't believe him. He tilted his head back and looked at the moon. For the first time since becoming Alpha, he felt something heavier than guilt, darker than rage. Loneliness. He closed his eyes. The image of her eyes shining with tears, her voice trembling with anger, wouldn't leave him. He'd seen fear before, but never hers. And that was what broke him. When he finally rose to his feet, his decision was already made. He would protect her from the shadows, if he had to. He would keep the vampires misled, the borders sealed. He would guard her without her ever knowing. Even if she hated him for it. Even if she never forgave him. Even if she left and never came back. Because love, for Izek Stormbane, had never been about possession. It had always been about survival. He turned toward the woods again, his golden eyes catching the moonlight, and disappeared into the dark, a phantom in the storm, carrying both his vow and his heartbreak in silence. Mira sat by the fire, watching the rain begin. Neither of them slept that night. The rain outside hadn't stopped. It beat against the windows in angry rhythms, wind howling through the trees that bordered her home. Every shadow looked sharper, every creak louder, like the forest itself was watching. Her body trembled, not from the cold, but from the shock that came after rage, the kind that leaves you hollow. She pressed her palm against her mouth, choking back a sob that broke through anyway. She hated crying. She hated feeling small. But most of all, she hated that even now, even after everything, her heart still ached for him. How could she still love someone who had put her in danger? How could she still want to see his face at the door again, just to tell him to stay? Mira sank onto the couch, staring blankly at the flickering light from the lamp. The house, her house, suddenly felt foreign, unsafe. The heater hummed quietly in the corner, the same one Izek fixed. Even that now felt tainted, a reminder of how deeply he'd tangled himself into her world. Stupid, she whispered to herself. So stupid. She thought of Abir, sleeping peacefully in his room upstairs, unaware that monsters even existed, unaware that his mother had fallen in love with one. Her chest tightened painfully. What if the vampires already knew about her, about Abir? Leo's words echoed in her head like a curse. You must know wolves and humans are danger together, because of the vampires who hunt them. Danger together. That was what she and Izek were, a fuse and a flame. Her mind wouldn't stop spinning, flashes of memory blending together like shards of glass. Izek's smile the night he cooked for her, his laugh when she burned the stew. The warmth of his hand brushing against hers, the look in his eyes when he said she wouldn't disappear. And then blood. A scream. A full moon sky. She pressed her hands over her ears, trying to push it all away, but it was useless. Fear crawled up her throat, making it hard to breathe. If vampires could find them through him, what if they already had? Her gaze flicked to the window. The forest loomed outside, vast, dark, endless. She thought she saw movement between the trees, a flicker of something pale against the black. But when she blinked, it was gone. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't alone. Her heart pounded faster. She stood, packing the room, hugging herself tightly. She had to leave. She had to get Abir out of here, away from this cursed town, away from Izek, away from all of it. Tomorrow, she would pack tomorrow. Just the essentials, clothes, money, Abir's toys. They'd take the car and drive until the woods disappeared behind them, until Ravenshade was nothing but a bad dream. Her thoughts twisted painfully at the idea of leaving Izek behind, but she shoved them away. She couldn't afford to love him anymore. Love was what started this. Love was what would end her. When she finally climbed the stairs to check on Abir, she found him sprawled across the bed, clutching his little stuffed fox, his hair messy against the pillow. For a moment, her heart softened. She brushed a hand over his cheek. "You're all that matters," she whispered. But as she turned away, her reflection in the dark window stopped her. Her eyes looked different, tired, haunted, almost older. Maybe Izek was right. Maybe she did look different here. But not happier, not anymore. That night, she couldn't sleep. The storm outside raged until dawn, the sound of thunder masking the distant howl that rose from the forest, long, aching, and familiar. She pressed her hand against the window pane, closing her eyes. She didn't know if it was Izek's call. She didn't know if it was a warning. All she knew was that something in her heart held back. Morning came heavy, colorless. The air outside was crisp, but inside Mira's apartment it was suffocatingly still. The shadows on the walls reminded her of Izek, his eyes, his voice, his promises. And then his silence. When the knock came, she didn't need to check who it was. She felt it, that familiar pull in her chest, the one that always responded before her mind could catch up. Izek. Mira, his voice came through the door, low and raw. Please open the door. Her fingers trembled on the lock, but she didn't move it. Go away, Izek. There was a pause, the kind that stretched thin with all the words neither could say. I just need to explain. You've explained enough, she cut in, voice breaking. You lied, you kept things from me. Do you even understand what that means, Izek? I trusted you. Mira, I did it to protect you. You and Abir. Protect me, she laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. By keeping me in the dark, by letting me fall in love with someone who lives in a world full of blood and death and enemies that might already be looking for me. Silence again, then softer. I would never let them touch you, any of them. Mira pressed her forehead to the door, tears stinging her eyes. But they could, Izek. You said it yourself. You can't control everything. And now, she choked, now I can't even control my own heart because of you. On the other side, Izek's hand rested against the wood, his knuckles brushing where hers might have been. Mira, I know I broke your trust, but please don't shut me out. Let me make this right. She squeezed her eyes shut. You already did. You made me believe in something impossible. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I can't do this right now, Izek. I can't see you. He stayed there for a long moment, his breathing uneven, the weight of his heartbeat echoing faintly through the door. Then she heard it, the sound of his footsteps retreating, slow, reluctant, leaving behind a silence that felt far too loud. Mira leaned back against the door, sliding down until she sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest. The air was cold, her tears colder. Through the window, morning sunlight reached into the room, but it didn't touch her. Across town, no one knew. Nova had gone early for her shift. The others were busy sealing the perimeter around the city. No one noticed the silence between Mira and Izek, the invisible wall that had risen overnight. To everyone else, the world looked normal. But for Mira, everything had cracked. And on the other side of that door, Izek stood motionless near the fence long after she stopped crying, until even the sound of her heart behind the wood was too faint to hear. The night after shutting Izek out, Mira sat by the window. Her thoughts spiraled into places she had spent years avoiding. The quiet, the ache, it all pulled her back to a time when her heart first learned what breaking felt like.